Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Friday, TGI Friday, guys. I want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as seasoned. I got a word for you. Tap in. In fact, I have an email response. Okay, guys, now I have not responded back to everybody's email, so please be patient with your girl here, right? Okay. So, but I pulled these two because they're pretty similar. One person in general had the question of, actually, there are three that I want to pull. Someone had a question like, what does it mean for you to stand in the gap for, I guess, a kingdom partner, kingdom spouse, which she was asking. The second was in regards to her man cheated, should she stay? And the third was her man cheated, does that mean her man doesn't love her? Okay, so here's the thing. Again, everything I say is truly, truly, truly my opinion. There's no facts to anything. I personally believe that we all have different perspectives in life, depending on what we've been through in life, right? As well as certain way we were raised, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just my opinion. They're asking my opinion. If you guys would love to chime in, please do so in the comment section. I would love to hear from you guys. We can all agree to disagree. We're all adults here, right? Okay, and I'm also aware some people are surface thinkers and some are deep, layered thinkers. I definitely fall under the latter, and there's nothing wrong with surface thinkers. We all just think differently. I'll give you an example of surface thinker, something that happened on one of Pastor R.C. Blake's Instagram post, to give you an example. All right, so first thing first, I want to say this, sis. I always tell people, when you have questions like that, I truly believe you need to get your answer from the source, from God, right? Ultimately. But of course, there's nothing wrong with asking opinions of people, but you got to be very careful because remember, people, even including myself or your friends or whoever you're speaking to, they're giving you their opinion based on their experiences, things that they experience. And sometimes that may not be the right answer for you. So I'm a person who believes in getting my revelation from God, and then people is my confirmation. That's just how I roll. So ultimately, ask God. He will tell you what you need to do. Next, I will be honest with you to tell you this. My answer from flesh alone will be completely different from spirit. Okay, so if you ask me if I had a guy that cheated on me, will I stay? Right? What are the benefits of staying? Flesh alone, hell no. Hell no. Excuse me, my church. Now, have I ever took someone back who cheated on me? Yes, but that was before I really know what I carry. You feel me? So there's no knock or diss to someone who may have taken someone back. But in truth be told, sometimes the individuals who may judge you, if you're in that situation right now and you got people who are side-eyeing you, maybe some of your friends are like, girl, trust me, most of them now took their man back and you just don't even know about it. Not saying all, but people like to judge a situation and they themselves have been in that situation. And just because you've elevated now, it doesn't mean like you can just kind of just knock the next person who is still going through that and still going through this process of elevation. So my answer is no, that definitely will not work for me. I'm speaking flesh. I'm going to get into spirit in a minute. It's not going to happen. Here's why. Again, I've been always very transparent about patience, and forgiveness is not my strong point. Again, both are very important and I'm better, but it's not my strong point. And if you guys decide to move forward, right, after some type of infidelity on whoever part, but we're speaking about guys right now. If you guys decide to make it work, and let it be you go through counseling or maybe you go to your pastors or whatever, they all will tell you the same thing. If you're moving forward, you can't keep bringing that stuff up. If a person have already apologized and you made a decision to accept the apology and move forward, then you can't keep revisiting that every time you get mad, pissed, or have a flashback. Listen, your girl, listen, I already know me. I know me. And because again, forgiveness is not, and I'm speaking still in flesh now. Because I know forgiveness is not my strong point. I'm going to bring that thing back up every 2 minutes. So I'm going to make his life a living hell, and I'm going to make my life a living hell, because I already know forgiveness is very, very difficult for me, especially if, even if they're trying to build that trust back up by doing the right things. It's like the minute you slip on one thing, if you don't answer that phone on one thing, it's like it sets it back to the very beginning. And who wants to live like that? Nobody should want to live like that. No man should want to have to deal with all that nagging in his ear, even though, yes, he may have caused it, but you have a choice to walk with your own peace, or you can stay. So he don't want to hear that. And then you don't even realize it's keeping you on a hamster wheel. So how can you ever get free? How can you ever heal? How can you ever move on and get the things that God really have for you in life if you're on this hamster wheel? I have someone who I know personally. They've been married a very long time. And she told me, she's like, Kizzy, it can be done, right? It can be done to the point that there can be an infidelity and you really put the work in. And she specified work. You put the work in, and it's very, very difficult, very hard, but God has to be front and center. There's no way around it. I'm speaking in her words. And now they're very, very happy married. All right, let's transfer over to the spirit. Listen, the spirit many times goes against everything that your flesh wants to do or wants to say. All right, in the spiritual realm, will I accept someone back who've been unfaithful? In all honesty, I'm still saying no, even in the spirit, because my flesh is even on fire thinking about it, right? But because my obedience is to God, then if God requires me to stay, and I know what some of you are saying, but trust me when I tell you, from my experience, there are times where God will have you stay in a situation that you may have every reason to bounce, but there's a bigger purpose. This is why sometimes you have to look at it from a selfless point of view. You have to look at it from your commitment and your obedience to God. Maybe God needs you to do something within that process. Maybe God is going to allow you to ultimately bring this person into him. Matter of fact, the same individual who I was speaking about a few minutes ago, she was telling me that that's how they really got back on that path, because she stood firm and she kept serving God as hard as it was to still be in that house. She just kept going to church. She just kept fasting, and she just kept being committed to God. And then her spouse would see that. And then one day she said he just got up and went to church with her. And she was like, huh? And so that was the start of him turning his life over to God. And many, many years later, so sometimes God will have you in a position where if we can discipline this flesh so much to focus on God and what does God need. Do you know that there are some things in this world that only you can do? Now, granted, I'm a firm believer, and if God needs something to be done, listen, if you don't do it, he's going to find somebody to do it. But if you're called to it, the grace that will cover you to do it, right? This is why you will have people stay in situations and people can't understand it. Like, how in the world could you? Well, because you don't have the grace to do it. See, when I have the grace to be somewhere, it's not that it's easy, but it's more easy than just your random person. So there may be times where only you only you can get this person to God. Of course, that's ultimately their decision to go, but I'm speaking about being an example. Being an example, standing in the gap, and before you know it, this person already like started going to church or started a relationship with God or just started to come to church with you just randomly. And before you know it, you've completed an assignment that God needed you to stay. And listen, and after that, that marriage or that relationship will be one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best relationships of any sort is those relationships where you've been through hell and back together. I mean, hell and back. Because once it finally levels off, for one, there's so many perks because of your obedience, right? If it was required of God, again, let's be clear here. If it was required of God for you to stay in sacrifice, the level of blessings and overflow that comes when things level off is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Now, hear me carefully when I say, if God requires you to stay, not flesh, not emotions, not a soul tie, not a narcissist, right? Because then you're in your own. You got to be careful with that because you mess around and lose your whole mind. Literally. You mess around and lose your whole mind trying to stay or stand in the gap someplace where you don't even have grace to be there. In fact, God is telling you to leave, but you just can't because your heart is involved or whatever. So I want to be sure that I make a clear distinction between those two. You're staying because God is requiring it because there is some kind of assignment that he's going to work through you in order to get the person to him, etc. So that's my thoughts on that. What was that a question? Okay, so I'm going to be honest here. I've always, my opinion and my experiences felt like a person can cheat on you. That doesn't mean that they don't love you. People are fighting their own demons. And what happens many a times, if not all or most, when someone betrays us, we take it personally as in it's something wrong with us. You hurt me because you don't love me. You cheat on me because you don't love me. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And most, if not all of the time, it's them fighting their own demons. It's something they're struggling with internally. You're questioning yourself, well, am I not good enough? And the fact of the matter is, he don't feel he's good enough. So he have to find some kind of way to overcompensate for whatever is missing. So you can have people who are dealing with childhood abandonment wounds. These are sometimes the people who are not faithful in relationships. These are sometimes the people who are not even faithful to their own children. Like you're losing your mind trying to understand, why is he such a bad father? Why is he not there? I don't understand. And it's your child, it's your child. Well, because people are fighting with their own demons. So if he had the seed of rejection, the seed of abandonment that he experienced in his own childhood, right? And that's a generational cycle or whatever, then it's hard. It's hard. I know it's it doesn't make any sense because it's almost like, well, if your parents wasn't there, wouldn't you want to be in your child's life to overcompensate for what you've been through? But remember, everybody's different. Some people may go that route and some will run away because some people feel like, well, if I'm not going to be a great dad, I just rather stay away, right? If I'm around this child, I don't even know how to connect to this child. I know it's my child, but I don't even know how to connect to the child because I've never had a parent connect to me. So, and I'm just giving that as an example because people are dealing with their own wounds. We're not the only people. You're not the only person who have wounds and have demons to fight. Yours may just be a different type of demon. You may have a demon of gluttony. Right? This person may have a spirit of gluttony. This person may have, a spirit of lust. There's different spirits, but we as people sometimes want to feel like because your demon is not the same as mine, or your spirit is different than mine, that yours is worse, or no, listen. We all trying to figure this thing out called life. We're all trying to figure this thing out called life. We are all trying to figure this thing out called life. Some are just more mature in their walk than others, but we all are trying to figure this thing out called life. So I've always never saw it as, because you cheat, you don't love me. I've always seen it as, no, you cheat, you got issues, right? Those are your issues, because it ain't about me, because I'm gonna hold it down, period. That's about you. You got some conditioning going on, right? You got a generational curse because maybe Papa was a Rolling Stone and all you saw was him cheating and having 8 and 9 girls. You know, there's actually somebody who's popping up in my spirit as I speak about this. And this individual, this was not somebody I dated, but he was telling me he was dating a friend of mine, actually, and he just couldn't be faithful. Make a long story short, when we ended up like really kind of getting to the root of things, he was telling me when he was a little boy, like a little boy, his father would take him to all the side pieces' house, and he would like spend nights there, right? And he knew what his dad was doing, but he would carry this hurt and this disappointment in his spirit as a little boy, 8, 9 years old, because he's a mama's boy. And so he had to go right back home to look his mom in the face, knowing what his dad is doing. Why are you putting your children into that nonsense? And you wonder why people are all messed up, because we're dealing with all kind of different wounds and things that has happened and we've been exposed to in childhood. So he was just telling us how it's almost like he always wanted to be faithful to her, but it's just this demon inside that it just keeps calling him to other women. And he just can't, it's hard for him to be faithful. Well, of course, those are demons. Again, that stuff have to be broken off of you, cast out, etc., 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 etc. But look how that situation, that generational curse, that cycle, that demon, that spirit of lust, whatever, that's his thing. That's his thing. That has nothing to do with his girlfriend. That's his thing. So sometimes those spirits and those demons are stronger than the love. So it's not that I don't love you. It's just that I don't know how to love you. It's not that I don't love you. This demon is just taking over. It's not that I don't love you. I love you, but I just don't know how. I don't know. But we're thinking it's us. So, okay, surface versus deep thinkers. All right. So Pastor R.C. Blake said on Instagram, it was a post. No, I think it was a video. It was a video, and he was saying basically the same thing. He was saying that a person can love you, but they can, not treat you well, etc., 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 etc. But it doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means that they have their own demons. Same thing I basically just said. But he also said, but I don't advise you to stay in that situation, because it is not your job to fix them. Again, I agree. Again, unless there's a bigger purpose involved, deep thinker here, unless there's a bigger purpose involved spiritually. But when it's to the point where you're not covered by grace because it's a spiritual assignment, you will lose yourself. You will lose your mind. You can lose yourself trying to stay in a situation, trying to help somebody else. First of all, the person has to recognize. They have to recognize that there's an issue, that they're dealing with certain struggles, right? But we can be sitting there trying to attempt to get somebody to change, and the person don't even recognize that there's an issue. The person may recognize there's an issue, and they may just don't want to change. They may be fine living their life the way they want to live it. But we're losing ourselves, right? Just speaking in general here, we're losing ourselves trying to get somebody to change who don't want to change. A person who doesn't accept that there's something wrong, a person who doesn't put the work in and show you that they're putting the work in to change, doesn't want to change. You will never, ever, ever change them. In a situation like that, I don't believe God will call anybody to stay. Now, I've seen a situation where God will call someone to stay, but the person who's struggling, they're putting the work in. They're trying. See, you had to give somebody something to work with. But when they're not giving you anything to work with at all, I don't even see how God can be in that. Because if God is going to use you, you have to start seeing fruits. You have to start seeing somebody's trying. They're moving. They're thinking about going to therapy. They're trying to express themselves to you about the demons they're fighting and maybe some things that they dealt with in childhood or whatever. But you see that they're opening up to you and they're saying, "Hey, I'm trying, but I don't know how." Then you got wiggle room. You got room for God to be able to show you how to move as a vessel and maneuver, etc., etc. So a young lady commented, of course, most people agreed, but then there was a young lady who commented, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was saying something in the comment section in reference to, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how you could say, Pastor Blakes, that a person can love you, yet they're still not treating you fairly good, or they're cheating on you, or whatever. And he was like, well, I get what you're saying. Honestly, I do. But there are surface level thinkers, and there are deep thinkers. And it's true. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just that you're seeing it from the surface. You're seeing it from flesh alone. When you're deep thinker, you're seeing it from a spiritual view. Okay, God, if you say walk, I'm walking. Where's my bag? Because I'm ready to go anywhere. Matter of fact, I've been ready to go since last year, right? Peace. I'm not staying. Peace. Right? Okay. But if there's work, if this person is fighting with demons, if this person is dealing with generational cycles and norms and conditioning and curses, but God knows this is somebody that he want to use for his own purpose in the future. God knows this is somebody that is really, really a good person, but they're just struggling. And I want to help them. I want to be sure they're good. I want to be sure X, Y, and Z. But who can I use? Because this person already deals with their own childhood struggles and so they don't trust anyway. So I just can't use any random person. But you, because even though they may not be the best person as far as character or moral, they know you. They trust you. They may have not been good to you, but they love you and they trust you. They're not going to trust anybody else. They're too damaged. But you've already been there long enough. You've already proven yourself that they can rely on you. So I'm going to use you as a vessel. I'm going to need you to kill your flesh. Easier said than done. I'm going to need you to kill your flesh. I'm going to need you to fast so you can hear what I say. I need you to say what I need you to do, how I need you to X, Y, and Z. I don't need you in there yapping and fussing and acting a fool because listen, that's flesh. I need you to move in the spiritual realm. And before you know it, you will start seeing. Now, another example coming to my head is Mr. Steve. I told you guys when I first met Mr. Steve, one of the things he had said to me, I think maybe like the second week in, was like, he had many people who would come behind the store he was sleeping at and talking to him about God and et cetera, and trying to really get him to get back on the right path, et cetera. And then he just kept, and you heard him say it in the documentary, actually. He said it was something about you. It was something about your spirit. It was something about your spirit. And then one of my friends said to me, he's like, well, Kizzy, come on. I mean, the man was probably attracted to you. Well, listen, again, God is strategic. So if that's what it took, the job got done, because he's good, right? He's good. So for him to say, well, other people, there were a lot of people that came, blah, 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 blah. They would bring Bibles to him. He just wasn't, I guess, the motivation. And he just kept saying it was something about your spirit. It was something about your spirit. And I've always known that, people like, again, surface level thinkings. Well, or he was going on your looks. That's surface level. Spirits recognize spirits. because he always knew the Lord. He was just fighting his demons. And he said in the documentary, you heard him say right before he made us cry, he said, I asked him, I said, do you think the hotel stay, me putting you in this nice warm hotel, getting you this Bible, cleaning you up, do you think because you were nice and warm now and not halfway frozen to death, that was your connect back to God? He said no. See, there I was surface level, because that's what I was thinking when I asked him that. And he said no. Your spirit, you were my connect back to God. Not the hotel room, not the warm clothes, not the food, not that surface level. Could it have been done for somebody else? I'm sure if I had neglected and turned down an assignment, oh God, when you get it done, there's no denying that. But because I sacrifice, there's no better feeling than to be able to see the fruits of what God needs to be done, right? You're going to always, again, God's going to always take care of you in the process, and you're going to get the perks because you stayed obedient. So now I'm going to open the door in another way for you. I'm going to give you overflow in this way. And so you get all that. But the best feeling is knowing that a person got connected back to God or found God because of your sacrifice, because God used you as a vessel, because you were not so selfish thinking about, oh, well, this relationship or this marriage have to be perfect, right? It has to be Disney World and dandelions and it's got to be fairy tales. And people really think that their marriages and relationships should be that. And this is why you have people a lot of the times getting divorced, because once they get into this marriage, it's not fairy tale. It's not Disney World and dandelions. Now God is trying to get you to sacrifice something because there's a bigger purpose many times with marriages, right? Kingdom partnerships, I'm going to boom, skyrocket both of y'all, for a bigger purpose, but you can't even kill your flesh because, I don't know, he's not communicating properly. So we're too locked in on the person. And my God, please understand, I've been there, trust me. We're too locked in on the person versus what do God need. Now, if you let me make the decision, I'm going, period, right? Let me make the decision, right? Because I know where to find them. They're waiting. But if you tell me to stay for whatever reason, then I have to sacrifice, because my faithfulness is to you, not this fool sitting on the chair. Speaking in general here. So I think I answered those questions. What was it? If he cheats, does that mean he doesn't love you? Again, my answer is, it does not, in my opinion, it does not mean that. It does not mean that. 2, all the time. I mean, maybe it could, but not all the time. 2, what was the other question? What was it? Oh, standing in the gap. What does that mean? What does that look like? Basically, if I'm honest, really what I just said a few minutes ago. It's just different scenarios. One is already your people's, right? You might already be in that relationship or that marriage. The other, you're not together yet, but it's the same thing. God have been clear. This is your people's. I'm going to shut everything else down because that ain't your. This is your people's. So they might be acting crazy now, or they may not. They're just doing their own thing or whatever. I mean, they may not even be. They may not even answer their call yet. That God told you they will. God told you he's going to use you to do it as a vessel. So, same thing, sacrifice. You want to go and listen, dude, I ain't got time. Right. To the left, I ain't got time. Like, seriously. But God says you can't. God says you can't. God said you got to sit in that single season because you got to hear everything he needs you to war against, everything he needs you to do, every download on why it's only you who can do it. He's going to show you things that you will be up against. So even when that thing manifests and certain things start coming up, which they will, because Satan's going to attack anything, right? God already showed you in your quiet season that thing will already happen. So when it manifests, you just going to look at this fool like, listen, go have fun. You'll be back. You spazzing out because I don't know them demons up in you. You'll be back. Period. Right? So it is really still about sacrifice, but it's still ultimately, I feel like standing in the gap without a doubt, in my opinion, without a doubt, is a God-given, God-ordained purpose. It ain't about you. It ain't because you're so cute and you're so beautiful and your daddy told you when you was 5 that you're going to have this princess of a wedding and you will never get hurt and everything will be okay. So ultimately, standing in the gap can also be for your benefit, included, because maybe God is going to take the two of you, partnerships, skyrocket things. And I mean, you're going to be doing major things for kingdom purposes, right? Might be on some old, public figure type thing. Who knows? Only God knows what your purpose is. But people want blessings and don't understand the fight that you have to go through in order for certain things to manifest. So I don't know. Is God calling you to stand in the gap for a person? Because let me tell you something. If you ever get called to do that, honey, everything in the flesh is going to tell you to walk. Everything in the flesh is going to tell you to walk. One is going to feel like you're doing it for no reason. You're going to feel like it's not fair to you because they may still be wilding out, but God got you home fasting. It may not feel right to you or fair to you because you're probably meeting 35 dudes per day. And when you try to give your number out, the conviction gonna snatch your edges. But this fool over here probably on Instagram with somebody else, right? So your flesh is telling you, oh, well, he's on Instagram. Honey, you're looking surface level. So whoever said they saw him at Walmart with a girl, right? Or her, whoever y'all got going on, right? Whoever said they saw, that's surface level. That ain't gonna last. That's not, it is only working now because God ain't done clip him up yet. When God clip him up, he's going to snatch you ever from him anyway. So you can't worry about that. You got to keep your eyes locked on God. If God got you standing in the gap for somebody because he said this is your kingdom, this is your kingdom wife or your purpose partner, whatever, everything in the fleshly realm going to piss you off because it doesn't make sense. It's surface level. You got to know when you're hearing from God. This is why you got to be so deep up into the spiritual realm. This is why you got to be fasting, why you got to be, you got to be so deep up into this thing. This is why people run so easy because they don't really want to put that discipline in, but you got to be so disciplined in whatever way that God requires you to be disciplined. You got to be so disciplined because the download you get in the spiritual room will make the flesh from a breeze. You don't even care about none of that foolishness. You're just looking like child, please. You be back. And you better hope God don't tell me I can walk. If God says, all right, she taking too long, he taking too long, they're playing, I've already convicted them, I've already clipped them up, they're making their hair walk. I can walk now? Woo! Where's my phone, honey? Where's my call log? Woo! It's on and popping. Back in the flesh. Get right, Kizzy. You guys have a great one. I hope this helped you guys. You guys have a great weekend. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.